inconvenience, for anyone who would like to address the committee, we're going to ask you to use the microphone on the far left of the podium here, and we can use that for anyone who would like to approach. So, public comment portion being open, please come forward. State your name and address. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Good evening. I'm Anthony Horgan. Live at 60 William Street. I'm a Malden High School alumni, and I graduated the class of 2007. I am currently pursuing my associate's degree at North Shore Community College, and I am with hopes to transfer in the spring semester. I was both saddened and outraged to hear of another shop closing at Malden High School. Going through the shops at Malden High School was definitely one of the most influential and important experiences of my life. I learned more about life in the real world in these shops, as well as the technical aspect, than in any other class I've ever taken. When I heard about another shop closing, I felt it was my duty, as well as my privilege, to try and convey how these shops are crucial and necessary. Firstly, for some students, these shops are a sanctuary. There are some students I have known who only came to the school for the shops and would have failed otherwise. Some kids are not meant to go to college, and the atmosphere at Malden High School is very much college-oriented. By accessing these shops, you hereby condemn all these kids. Secondly, as I remember from my senior shop class, we actually presented a project at UMass Lowell Assistive Technology Fair, where we all received medals, and we actually turned some heads and met some very influential people. And that is more than I could say of any other class I'd taken in high school. So lastly, even though shop classes were considered standard classes, all my senior level 4 tech fellow student classmates, all took it anyways, even though it affected their GPA. And out of the 8 kids in our class, 6 are now enrolled in college. When it comes down to it, these shops give kids options. It gave me the options and assurance that if I don't make it in college or I can't afford it, I can go out and get a job in the automotive field, and after some hard work, I could become a master technician and make a more than comfortable living. My only conviction is that these shops must stay. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank you all for showing up, showing support. My name is Daniel Delegado. I'm a member of class of 2005. Upon graduation, I attended Bunker Hill Community College. Right now, I have my associate's degree in electric power and utilities technology. Currently, I'm working for N-Star Electric. I've been with them for 2 years now, and working towards my apprenticeship to become a master lineman. I haven't prepared anything, but what I'd like to say is having a tech ed class, especially now when times are tough and these great times and not many people have jobs. You know, kids, they spend all this money and they have all these loans. They go to school for 4, sometimes 6, maybe even more than that years. They get out, and then, you know, what do they do after that? They have to find a job. Well, for me, I was a member of the wood shop for 4 years, counting 8th grade, I guess you could say 5. It gave me basic knowledge and you know, how to use tools, how to work safe work practices. And now every day in my job, I use that every day. You know, the type of field that I work in, I might not come home if I don't work safe. And definitely one thing that I've learned from a wood shop is how to be safe and how to keep your people that you work with safe. Not only has it taught us, you know, safety, but a lot of kids, maybe even adults might think that it's a waste of time. It's an easy A. But when it comes down to it, any class is an easy A if you put the effort towards it. You know, if I work hard at, say, trig, I can be a mathematician if I wanted to. For me, for woodshop, you know, I took the time every day. I showed up. I wanted to learn. That's what it is. It's a willingness to learn. And if you go into a class thinking, I'll just sit back and let my peers take over for me, then, you're not going to get anything out of that experience. For me, it was different. It was more of it was a learning process. Every day it taught me something different. And I've used basically everything that I learned in woodshop, everyday life. If you take the tech schools now, like the Voc, they get like 600 kids that sign up to go to the Voc every year, and only like 300 spots, get used up. What do those other 300 kids do that they're not aspiring to go to college, but they want a good tech career? They can't come to Malden High for that, but if they live in Malden, they can't go anywhere else. So I think it's a privilege for these kids to have a tech school in Malden, and it'd be really unfortunate if that gets taken away from them. Thank you.
How you doing, everybody? My name is Kyle Figueroa, class 2004. Basically, just to start off, our shops mean everything. Some of us aren't built to go to college. You know what I mean? We can be good academically. Like, I was class president. I was all around. I did everything, really. But, ever since I was a little kid, I've always been a mechanical type person. Shops aren't just about teaching you a trade. It's about teaching you about life. Because you can't learn about life from a book. You understand? These teachers, not only do they become like your best friends, they teach you absolutely everything there is to know about what the real world is like. Honestly, and trades work well with other things. Like, for instance, I was horrible at math. I did not get math at all. But Mr. Baz helped me out a lot. It's like by teaching me how to deal with equations and ratios. And then basically when I applied it to something that I enjoyed doing, it was easy for me to do. I'm an electrician now. I'm on my 4th year apprenticeship. Honestly, with a lot of the skills and knowledge that was instilled to me by Mr. Murph, Mr. Baz, Mr. Froyo, Mr. Keene, everything, you know what I mean? That basically gave me the drive and the motivation to really move into anything. I work for the government, you know what I mean? I get paid more than most kids out of college do, And it's really with anything that you apply yourself to, sky's the limit. You can make yourself a great career out of whatever it is that you choose to do. But by eliminating our shops, you're eliminating those choices to other kids, which is unfair. Because just like how Danny Delgado said, kids who basically go to the Voc and then they get returned, because the Voc, don't forget, also schools Chelsea and a few other districts, and which is unfair. By eliminating shops here, you're basically eliminating opportunities for kids to learn more and to basically, because like I said before, just to reiterate, by eliminating our shops, you're just eliminating more choices. Then what are those kids going to do? They're just going to be working in retail, or they're just going to be working in fast food. They're just going to be working there, and which is unfair. So plain and simple, don't take away our shops. If anything, we should dump more money into shops, give electrical programs, plumbing programs, HVAC programs, all these different programs to basically help our kids. You know what I mean? Because that's the thing. We're always going to need that. The lights in this room right now, you're going to need electricians to do that. You're going to need masons for all the brickwork. You're going to need carpenters. You're going to need plumbers. No matter what, if you want to put a nice addition in your house, who are you going to need? Carpenters for that. Mr. Murph is the greatest teacher at doing that. If your car breaks down, who do you have? Mr. Bazzanotti, he taught me everything there is to know. I remember that one year, my senior year, they did an editorial on each class. And I still have the thing hanging up in the frame. It's because I will always take that experience with me. So, that's the thing. Save our shops.
Thank you.
How you doing? My name is Dimitri Mangame, class of 03. My profession now is I'm a graphic designer. I work for Pierce Education, and I don't know if you guys know about it. Probably use half our high school books are made by them. And you might think that Howard Shop's helping me out with graphic design. Well, I took all all the 4 shops when I first started as a freshman to see what I really wanted to go for. And when I landed Mr. Foyle's class, we did business cards and notepads and all these things, and that, caught my eye. I was like, that's kind of cool. I've always been an art kid, and that kind of just brought me to, see what I could do. And as the years go by, we had to rotate all the classes, and I took auto and I took woodshop, and my father is a furniture maker, so woodshop was kind of natural to me, and that's what I liked there. And for the last 3 years, I spent my time in woodshop. And the things that we build were not just simple, little bookshelves or little dinky things. I mean, we did freshman year, but when I graduated, I built probably 16 classic wooden pens with pen cases. I built a 13-foot canoe, and I don't know how many of you guys could say that, and I feel like that for me was a lab for everything that we were taught, and geometry and algebra. That's where we got to put it to use. It's the same thing as cutting a lab for biology. I mean, we actually built a steamer where we put wood inside of it, and after it came out, we could bend it like rubber to go around our canoe. We had to use physics for that. Everything about the canoe, everything about the engineering of it was all geometry. So to me, it's like the things we you teach in chemistry class. We have chemistry lab. So why you're not getting rid of that? And I don't think you should. But I also wanted to say that because of woodshop, I graduated number 3 in my class from Suffolk University, and my teacher said that to me personally. He said, everybody's work was great here, but you know why you stood out? You put a little spin that nobody else does. I always did something out of wood. I made a box that looked like a book, and I put cards inside. That was one of my projects. I made a box out of fiberglass and wood to house a greenhouse. And he said those little nuances is what put you through. And the pen that I used in building the Smurf class, I always used that in class to take all my notes. And he always thought, that's such a cool pen. And when I told him that I built it, he couldn't believe it. At the end of my senior year, I ended up giving him that pen because all that time he was just so infatuated. He's like, where did you go to school? Like, you must have went to a tech school. And I said, you know what, in Malden High. And a lot of people think, it's just Malden High. But I got the best education there all around. And I think that's what the shops do. I mean, you can't take a test as a group, can't write a paper as a group, but that's what shops taught us. They always taught us how to work together. And you'd be surprised how many people out there are just kind of like socially awkward. The people I work with, they don't know how to work in groups. And I feel like from that's when it started. I mean, it definitely helped out in college, but teamwork was huge in those shops. And like I said, I was in woodshop for most of my time, but because of Mr. Baz, I know how to change my own oil, and that's what I do. I now know how to change a tire, and a lot of people don't think of that. So I think the shops that we have here, maybe the Vogue has a little more in-depth program, but here we learn the basics, and I think that's what high school is. It teaches you the basics, and when you get older and you go to college, you really figure out what you want to do, but how can you figure it out if you don't know the basics? I know now in school it's only woodshop and auto, and I really, really think it should be more. I beg you not to shut this down because I am what I am because of woodshop, honestly. Thank you.
Public comment portion is still open.
My name is Kathleen Lane. I'm a retired teacher from Malden High. I taught 38 years in the Malden Public Schools. In my many years as a teacher, I encountered numerous students with a variety of learning styles. Initially, I taught junior high school mathematics for 11 years before deciding to approach education from a different perspective. I realized that students learn in various ways and that some students derive greater educational benefits from hands-on experience. I became a consumer homemaking teacher and focused on teaching foods. I found that when a student follows a recipe, measures ingredients, and derives the benefit of having created a final product, that student takes pride in his or her accomplishment. This success is important to the student's continued desire to learn. More importantly, the experience of cooking, like the other occupational education classes, teaches children reading, comprehension, organizational, and math skills. These are skills that certain students might not learn if they were strictly relegated to the formal classroom environment. In my foods class, we prepared luncheons for the faculty, staff, and senior citizens. The students took pride in preparing and serving a meal from start to finish. This gave my students an opportunity to proudly present their work to the Malden community. Often students would tell me that if it wasn't because of the school luncheon or the food we were making that day, they would not come to school. In a time when keeping students in school is important, the value of occupational education should not be overlooked. Providing a child with an education does not necessarily mean that the child should be placed in a classroom and taught only through traditional methods. We need alternative methods to reach students who have tremendous potential to succeed in life and contribute to society, but who do not thrive in the classroom setting. Allowing these students to experience an interactive environment where they learn through doing is invaluable. Occupational education, art, business, similar programs are a vital part of any educational establishment. The loss of such programs would be devastating to students and could lead to a higher dropout rate. Students who excel at foods or in the shop might give up on their education in those programs if those programs were taken away from them. These students do make a difference in our community. Some of our student success stories from the foods department include Bobby C's restaurant in Melrose and Santoro's Deli and Caterer in Peabody, both owned by former students. We also have a former student who is having great success in the food service at the Marriott Corporation, and I could go on with that. Without the occupational education department, these students probably would not have excelled in these areas. Our students need the opportunity to experience occupational education. Please don't take this chance away from them. Thank you for your time.
How you doing? Name's Joseph Forrester, class of 2003. I can say right now I'm not much of a speaker, so I'll do my best. Never book smart whatsoever. And I took metals class with Mr. Keene my 4 years of high school. And to tell you the truth, the job I have today, which is industrial mechanic, and I build car washes for a living all over New England, I got the job through Mr. Keene. Taught me how to weld, use a cut and torch, grinder, all the industrial tools that I use every day today. And after I graduated, he called me up. He was like, "Hey, my son's in in a car wash business, builds car washes, and he's looking for a mechanic." And I could only think of you. You're mechanically inclined. So I went down there, and they gave me the job right on the spot, just because just because of Mr. Keene and his good word that he put in. And they basically, the very next day, they slapped a welder in my hand, and they're like, "Well, let's see if you can really do what you can do." And I impressed them all, and I've been working there since 2003. I've had the same job, made a living out of it. I have a house on Revere Beach now. At the age of 24, not many people can say that they have that, and it's I thank Mr. Keene for that, really. That's it. Thank you very much.
How's everyone doing? Jeff Donahue, 56 Tremont Street, lifelong resident of Malden. I know most of you, all of you up here actually, and my favorite class at Malden High was the ones I skipped. But the only class that ever touched me was shop classes. I still remember Willie Barron back in Brown Junior High, teaching us how to work the bandsaw and table saws. And as most of you know, Malden High didn't really touch me in any way. Didn't want to go. Mr. Iovino, I grew up across the street from you. Lived there my whole life. I lived 100 yards from the high school. I couldn't get there every day. But did I build a beautiful porch on my mother's house? I think I did a great job. 8-year city councilor, vice president of the Carpenters Union. That's what I got from the trades. I can tell you this, every month, the first Monday of the month, we take applications for apprentice carpenters. We have 400 to 600 kids coming to Brighton every month. We have to turn them away. It's an accredited apprenticeship program, so we have to take so many in. The kids that are getting in are the kids that are showing up with their high school transcripts, and it shows that they had shop on it. They're far above the other kids that are coming in saying, I went to high school, went and got a job, didn't like what I was doing, now I want to be in the trades. If you took a shop and it's on your high school transcripts, you're that much further ahead of the ball than the other kids. You know, as we go home tonight, we're all going to drive by dry cleaners, we're going to drive by restaurants, bars, parking garages, city hall. The chair we're sitting on, every single thing in our life is built by a tradesperson. Everything. School committee, we get up here and folks, not necessarily you folks, tout no child left behind. I think you're leaving a whole class of students behind. And one would argue there's 54 languages taught at Malden High. One would argue we don't need 54 languages. We speak English. But you're giving them an opportunity. That would be my argument. It's an opportunity for them to use it somewhere in the real world, whether it's doing transcripts or a courthouse, a translator, something. If you have 2 or 3 languages, you go further. Same thing with trades. How many folks do you know that you can't hang a picture in their own house? I can tell you all the work I've done in City Hall here. I wish Mr. Duffy was here. I did the hardwood floors in his father's house. And I've done a ton of work in City Hall, and I got that from the trades. School isn't for everyone, college. I didn't go to college till 2 years ago. 3 years ago, I went to Northeastern, and they're construction-related classes. You can't leave a class of kids behind. I know the school committees, I don't know how the budget works with you folks. I believe it's just handed to you from the city council. You can cut, but you can't add. Is it the same? Oh, the city council can cut, you can't add. But I would implore you, Mr. Smith, put the shops back in. You're sitting on that chair. It was put together by a union carpenter. I'm sure this counter was. These bricks were done by masons. Those chairs out there. Everything in our life, I just can't emphasize the importance of it. You can't leave one student behind, and I think you'll be leaving hundreds of them behind. With the programs, like I say, our program, your senior class is roughly 800 students per year. We're quadrupling that in kids filling out applications that want to get into our program, let alone the iron workers, District 35 painters, the electricians, the plumbers. I built the Department of Education in Malden Square. I worked on the YMCA. I did the windows down at Newland Street. I'm doing the $77 million high school rehab. You folks are approving all this. It's all being done by tradesmen. That whole $77 million is being done by tradesmen. And what are we asking for? First thing we're asking for is that they give preference to Malden residents. I'm looking out here and saying in 20 years we're not going to have any Malden residents that have any preference because there's going to be no trades. It's something that just can't go away. I just hope that you'll think outside the box when you're making that decision. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jesse Falado. I live at 45 Madison Street. I have something brief I prepared here. Recently, President Obama stated that the key to recovering from our economic crisis is to invest in furthering in our children's education, not to take away from it. Personally, the lessons I took from shop class were priceless and changed my life. And I think shop is a great way for children who may not embrace academics to learn trade skills that can give them an alternative training that can lead to a great career. Please save our shops. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Emelina Ponsman, and I am a freshman at Malden High School. I would like to start off by saying that keeping the technology programs will truly benefit the students at Malden High School. Having the technology programs gives students a chance to explore other opportunities within work fields. Ending the program will limit students' chances to explore different career paths that they can pursue if they decide not to attend college. For example, My brother John Ponzavon graduated from Malden High School in 2000. He told me that the program helped him in making the decision to join the military as a combat engineer. From what he tells me, he helps build things, and the knowledge he gained from the technology program helped him. Overall, some students, because of their situation, whether it's financial or personal, may not want to attend college after high school. Being in the technology program gives students the tools needed to join the workforce after graduation or further their studies. The current state of the economy has made the job market more competitive than ever, and students need the knowledge that is learned from programs such as this to gain an edge over the other potential employees. Many students find that being in the program has helped them find a field that they love, and they continue to pursue it as a career after they graduate. Overall, given the economic situation, I understand tough decisions have to be made. But I hope that the people who have to make this decision of whether or not to cut this program will put what I have said into consideration as well. I would like to thank everyone for their time and attention.
Good evening. I'm not sure I'm legally speaking here, but I'm an ex-school teacher at Malden High School. 20 years I taught carpentry at Malden High School. 32 years I was a member of Local 218. I just want to remind you that these students sitting out here now are going to be looking for work. What do we do there? I'll tell you, if any of you have been to the North Shore shopping mall lately, a Malden High School graduate was the superintendent of that job for the past year and a half, working for William Kenny Company. That's where I started. This kid went through the apprenticeship program out of high school, become Massachusetts State Carpenter of the Year, and then went on to work in the union and get himself a superintendent's job, and now he's good for life. There are many, many, many of my students who are working in this city with their own companies, doing their own work, building houses, doing remodeling. I meet them all the time. So for you people to sit here and say that an engineer is the way we want to go, for every thought an engineer has, there are 100 tradespeople required to carry that thought out. Think of that.
Hi, my name is Kristen Tran, and I live in 54 Samet Street. I know that because of economic times, it is difficult to maintain all the programs that Malden High has previously provided to all students. However, I believe it is important to keep the woodworking program by any means possible. I know the basic goal of high school is to do good and get accepted into a good college, but the reality of it is that not everybody goes to college. That's just the way it has been and the way it will continue to be. By eliminating the woodworking program, we are essentially limiting somebody's future. Whether you personally believe that college is the right choice or only choice for a person to succeed in life, many have proved this theory to be incorrect, and that's why I ask all of you to take this into serious consideration. I know that you have all probably heard something like this before, but there are only so many ways we can emphasize how important it is to save our shops.
Hi everyone, I'm Samantha Power, 65 Belleville Street. I know you've all heard these points before, but I'd like to reiterate one more time the importance of shops at Malden High. It's been said that not everyone goes on to college. In today's economy, that being the reason for the budget cuts in the first place, most people can't even afford college. Those who apply to the vocational school are not guaranteed acceptance either. So there's also the fact that, however discouraging that is to the school committee, that school is simply not for everyone. And I know that people who haven't been successful during high school, despite the efforts of Malden High, haven't chosen to go to college. Though I am not a woodshop student, I still firmly believe that it needs to be kept at Malden High, because otherwise there will be many students who have been displaced and will have nowhere to go. And thank you for hearing us out, and we sincerely hope that you reconsider.
Yellow. Andrew Bates, 10 Rand Street, Malden. I went to the Vulcan Wakefield. I spent 4 years there. The first year you went through all the shops. You never really knew exactly what you wanted. You got a taste of everything. I ended up choosing electrical. Spent the following 3 years there. Half of my junior and full senior year was on co-op with Primo Electric. I currently still work there. I have not missed a day of work in 3.5 years. I am getting paid above Local 103 salary. I'm in Local 103. Have my own van, work phone, awesome. If I did not end up getting accepted to the Voc, what do I do? Go to college? College wasn't for me. I didn't like the academic classes. You know, it's one thing to read and try to force yourself to learn, but that only works so much. You know, you can read and find out, oh, if you do this wrong, it hurts you. But when you're out in the field and you wire it wrong and it blows up in your face, you probably don't forget that. You know, I don't think it's right to force kids to have to go to a high school with no shops. I think if you want to do that, you should pay for that. You go to Pope John, Malden Catholic, whatever you'd like. I think every student should have a choice to, you know, go to a shop or academic, at least test it. You know, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kenny D'Souza. I was in class of 2008, and I took wood shop for 4 years. And what can I say about those shops? You know, the first thing when I was a freshman was us touring all the shops. We saw metal, we saw graphic designing. I remember we walked into wood shop and auto shop, and I guarantee you that all the freshmen were crazy about taking these shops. In fact, I wanted to take all of them. My senior year, I wanted to take auto shop and wood shop. Unfortunately, we only had those 2 classes left. But these classes that we take in school, they teach us how to be precise. They teach us to focus. You know, it's easy to call a carpenter and go, hey, can you just, you know, fix up my porch or blah, blah, blah. Or, hey, take your car to the auto shop. But when you actually know how to do it yourself, when you learn from a teacher, you know, yeah, you know, I can do that. I don't need someone, you know. And these are jobs that today that we need every single day. I mean, you cannot drive a car to work if you're a physics or an engineer unless you have your mechanic check it out every day. And these classes are teaching the students the skills that run this country. You know, they say America runs on Duncan, but I think it really runs on the traders, you know. But for the past 4 years, I've been in wood shop, and it's really been life-changing. I made everything from pepper mills to boxes to put cards, and I still have every single piece today. My mom uses the pepper mill every day, and I actually built a 17th century replica of a Queen Anne table. It was actually here at the Art Museum, and I'll tell you what, there's nothing like looking at that table every single day and saying, wow, you know, I built it. It took me 6 months of hard work, dedication. I came after school. And I also took wood shop, I took metal shop, and those classes were simply amazing. You know, they were the classes I looked forward to every single day. If there was one thing I looked forward to going to school, it would be these shops.
Chair is going to note that there's been a lot of testimony on the topic, and I appreciate everybody coming down here to voice their concern and give their opinion. We do not, you know, want to cut anybody short who's made the effort to attend, but we don't have the time to have everyone who may be here that may want to comment either. So we'll entertain a few more public comment portions on this topic if it's about saving shops or about the experience of shops on education, but we would move it on to other topics after that, but we'd be glad to entertain a few more comments on it. So feel free to step forward if you...
Hi, Barbara Murphy, 22 Forest Street, Malden, Massachusetts. This will be very quick, and it's something that no one has said to date. Well, actually, it might have been alluded to a little bit. This is actually out of the Malden Observer Friday, and it's talking about the retirement of the Northeast Regional Vocational Superintendent, Patricia Cronin. And in the article it says, in the summer of 2003, Cronin was appointed to the position of Superintendent Director. She has seen the application pool, which usually was in the range of 300 to 400, increase for the last few years to over 600 for 325 slots. And I think that says it all. There is a growing need for these type of programs, and it's a shame that we're thinking of cutting them here at the high school because it's taking away the opportunity of many children who aren't going to get the opportunity to go to the Northeast Regional, and we certainly have cut the program, I think, down to its bare bones with the closing of the graphic arts, the closing of sheet metal, closing of the Kathy Lane's occupational culinary arts program. So anyway, that's all I had to say. Thank you.
How you guys doing? My name's Anthony Minavini. Make this brief, obviously. Nobody wants to be here all night. I graduated 2000. I own my own business now. I am a custom bike fabricator. Everything that I do every single day has something to do with the shops. Fortunately, graduating in 2000, I had the opportunity to take all these shops. There was actually Home X when I was there, which I actually took too. I enjoyed that much, but it didn't work out so well with auto. I come to cook with dirty hands, so it was dirty hands going to cook. Nevertheless, it's crazy to hear another shop being cut. I was here 4 or 5 years, how many years ago it was before, again, cutting shops. I'll probably be here another 4 years if this happens again. Hopefully you guys don't get rid of the shops. It's just, I can't stress enough, there's so many people out there that don't. I listen to what everybody has to say. There's crazy amount of people that can't even hang a picture on a wall. People that don't know how to use a yardstick, how many inches are in a quart. I learned that in metal shop. Every single shop that I took, I went out of auto shop, a wood shop, I loved it. I wish I could have taken them all. But every day I use something that I learned in shops. And I went to college, I graduated college, and again, like I said, I own my own business now. I have business degrees, and I have the know-how of learning what I learned. It's just crazy. I wouldn't get rid of another shop, Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Whitney. Before I give you my speech, I'm going to actually give you a petition that over 250 people have signed. That's something for you guys to look at. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Murphy and the shops at Malden High School. Every person has to have a job in order to pay bills, and Malden High only now offers 2 vocational trades, and soon there's only going to be 1. But since I've been in Malden High, every year a tech class has been cut, and it's pretty sad to see. So if this year it's Mr. Murphy's wood shop, the next year it only leaves you with 1 teacher. That's overwhelmed, and no options for students going to college for financial reasons, and in general do not do well in an academic setting. I, for one, as many others in this audience that I know, don't do good in academic settings. I have a major problem with having to sit at a desk with my face in a book for 6.5 hours. It's not something I want to do, and it's not something that a lot of people out here that have, addressed you, with their comments. I, for one, have sent an application to the vocational school in Wakefield and in Medford 3 times. And I never even got an acceptance letter, no waiting list, nothing. So it's obviously kind of hard to get into. I currently work at Pine Banks Animal Hospital as a vet technician, and I would like to go to school for it. I would like to become a veterinarian, but I know for a fact that it's probably not going to happen, financial reasons, but any reasons. But one main reason is that, I like being underneath a car and, changing a tire or doing oil, anything. It's better for me, and I know that a lot of kids out there, like it better than, having to I'm not trying to poke a jab at you guys, but it's better for me doing something more hands-on than sitting at a desk, suit and tie, the whole thing. Let's see. I've actually had the opportunity in the last few years to actually work in carpentry and actually, see what it's like. And, Mr. Murphy, he's taught me how to use the different machines in his room, and it really helps me, on the job and stuff like that, just being able to know how to use the machines. But every machine I used on the job has been in Mr. Murphy's class. What was said in the paper from the first meeting that I attended to was a lie. We are learning what we need to, and he does have the right tools and machinery in his shop. These teachers have not only taught me how to fix cars or how to cut wood and use machines, but they have also taught me and so many other people how to use your hands while you work and enjoy doing it and go home every day proud of something that you have accomplished. Suits and ties are not always the best way to make money. Even though some of you do and may enjoy doing it, most of us don't. And we have been given the chance to do something else. And that is being taken away from incoming 8th graders or even current students who want to continue to take wood shop. They won't have the chance for next year if this cut is definitely going to happen. They're only pretty much left with an automotive. For every kid that walks through the door at MHS, and each and every one has a different story, and one thing that Mr. Murphy and Mr. Baz don't do is judge us by who we are, what we look like, and what we do in our personal life. They take us for who we are and make us feel as equal as the rest, and along the way teach us a life lesson or two. Both of them, Mr. Baz, I don't think he's here, but they have both given me some of the best advice to help me get through a lot of things, home life, work life, anything. And for you to take that opportunity that they gave me away from other students is unfair and selfish. I understand that you have a hard choice of making budget cuts, and with this economy, it doesn't make it any easier for you. But many current students of the high school and graduates who have been in these classes have all stood before you and said something to you from their heart. They all, one way or another, are trying to make the same point as myself. Our point is to not cut the wood shop or any of our shops, and maybe even give some of the old shops up and running again. Because our options are running out, keep this in mind when you guys are rethinking your decisions, that not only is a man losing his job, but children are losing out on the educational experience of it all, as well as the same sense of belonging that I have received. Please find it in your hearts and in your budget to keep Mr. Murphy here and in his wood shop, because the students who love these teachers are not going to give up on them. Thank you.
Hi, I'm here tonight to appeal to the school committee to reconsider the decision to close woodshop and the decision to lay off Mr. Murphy. Contrary to the voiced opinions and statements that woodshop is lacking the necessary tools, our class is well equipped with scroll saws, miter saws, jointers, planers, and our table saw, just to name a few. And to even consider closing the woodshop and limiting the students' access to a wide variety of jobs and a lifetime of learned skills is entirely inconsiderate to the students, the parents, and the members of the community.
Adam Solio, class of 99. I was never a good student, always a troublemaker, always gave the teachers troubles. Mr. Froyo can vouch for that, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Murphy. But all the times they were yelling at me for doing something I shouldn't have been doing, deservingly so, and thinking that I didn't take a lesson from what they were teaching, I did. And I think the shop is very important to the youth of Malden. And you take away the shop program from Malden's youth, and then I think, you're going to have kids turn out in trouble, more trouble than they could normally be. I took lessons from that, and I think now, obviously I'm in the trades. That's what I do for a living. And I think not only did the shop teachers make me a better tradesman, but I believe they made me a better man. Thank you.
Chair will take one final public comment on the topic, and then we're going to move on. So.
First of all, I didn't end up graduating, mainly because I was actually a troublemaker, just like the last person that spoke. Now, that was purely caused by me, all right? Now, why? Because I have no idea. Maybe it could have to do with middle school. I went through a lot of trouble. I actually remember Mr. Iavino. He probably knows a lot more about me than anyone in this room right now. I went through a lot, and now, my favorite class had to probably be Mr. Plotnick's. First of all, I was very good at like computers, and computers, of course, is like the stepping stone in our economy. I can design a lot of things. Now, I didn't really excel in carpentry or auto shop or any of the other classes, but what Mr. Plotnick told, what he told us was that he gave us a book. I actually read it, and it was actually really good. I ended up buying it, so anyway, he basically, like, he gave me the steps that I needed. I ended up building, I was like a graphic designer for a while for a modification, and I was paid for it. Ended up being a really good game, and it could have been taught, and it was a good thing too, because there's definitely other kids like me, definitely. There's no doubt about that. And if you take away those shops, you're taking a lot of trades, and just a lot of opportunities for kids that they can't grasp. And after that, there's whatever, And I actually want to thank all the people that are here today, because it's good that they're here. Thank you for letting me speak.
We're about to close the public comment portion of it. If there is something non-related to topic of choice for the first hour here, we can take that, but otherwise we'll consider the public comment portion of the meeting closed and move on to the rest of the agenda. Thank you. We'll move on to topic 2, student achievement, and we'll hear from the superintendent on that, together with superintendent's reports.
Okay, I'd like to start with some students of note this evening. First of all, start with Kaylin Young. Congratulations to Kaylin Young, who's a student in Miss Debbie Smith's gifted and talented 4th grade class at the Linden School. Kaylin was a third-place winner in the MWRA's grade 3 to 5 writing contest. And again, just a special note of congratulations to Kaylin for her fine work. Secondly, a note of congratulations to Jennifer Tran. Jennifer's a grade 7 student at the Salemwood Middle School, and Jennifer is a national semifinalist for the Jack Kent Cook Foundation Young Scholars Program. Jennifer has made it through 3 rounds to get to this level out of thousands of students nationally. And Jennifer was nominated by Citizen Schools. Again, congratulations to Jennifer, a grade 7 student at Salemwood. Also, I'd like you to join with me in offering congratulations to Angela Han. Angela is from Malden High School and has been selected as a Gates Millennium Scholar. Angela was one of 1,000 winners chosen from a pool of 20,000 applicants across the country. And Angela, as a result of this becoming a Gates Millennium Scholar, will attend Boston College on a full 4-year scholarship. So congratulations again to Angela. And then finally, a sports note. We had another outstanding week of athletics at Malden High School, not only on the field but off the field as well. And a special congratulations to the crew team for participating in the Walk for Hunger over the weekend. 29 student athletes from the team raised money on behalf of the Walk for Hunger. So that's it for this week. Just some outstanding students, and I'd like to give a tip of the hat to each and every one of them. Now I'd like to move on to the superintendent's report. First of all, you have in your packet from Ms. Oliver the updated budget data submitted for fiscal year 09, the same report that we offer on a monthly basis. Are there any questions about that report before I move forward?
Questions on status of the budget as outlined by Superintendent Ms. Oliver as of 4/27/2009.
A quick question on
Mr. Winston.
The bottom line says allocation back to the city general fund, and that's below the adjusted available funds. How is that being accounted for? We're basically $26,000 ahead right now, not $250,000 in debt, right?
Well, that $250,000 was transferred out of. What happened was that our special education budget, the IDEA, assumed $250,000 worth of expenses that were formerly on the city budget, and so that was transferred. Even after that, we have, as it says, $26,434. But that's all we have. That's all the wiggle room we have between now and the end of the school year.
Right.
So we're really not talking about a lot of space for error.
So that isn't an deduction below the $26,435?
No,
okay.
It's not. That has already been transferred to assume costs.
Other questions?
Okay, if I can move forward to FY10 report. As you'll note in my memorandum to you, just a few additional notes on the status of the budget. First of all, the IDEA stimulus funds, we will now devote $126,576 in IDEA stimulus funds to pay for out-of-district tuitions next year. That shift in the allocation is due to a drop in reimbursements for out-of-district placements through circuit breaker. That reimbursement has been from 70% to 57%, so that shift will be made next year. In addition, in Title I stimulus funds, the actual allocation came in a little over $100,000 less than proposed. So as a result of that, we have had to make shifts in the Title I projections for next year, a total now of $542,940. And thirdly, in Title IIA funds, we were notified that those funds will not be used to pay for personnel for class size reduction any longer. The funds will be devoted to teacher quality and professional development. As a consequence of that, we've had to shift 3 elementary teachers off of Title IIA, but we anticipate compensating for those positions in the regular budget due to retirements or other displacements. So we do not anticipate that those teachers will actually lose their positions. In addition, I just want to make note that as the members of the committee know, we've just received a new dollar figure proposal from the mayor adjusting the budget figure for next year. So between now and the next meeting, I will submit to you a new budget which will account for the increase of $500,000 in actually the decrease in the budget for FY10. That budget will be available to you for your review at the next budget meeting. Any questions about those points on FY10?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are you saying that the Title IIA funds are still the same? They're just going to be distributed differently?
Well, we haven't actually gotten the final allocation for 2A, but were we to receive the same amount of money, we would still need to make that shift. Okay. And have done so.
Thank you.
No other questions? Mr. Winslow.
And with that shift, although we're saving the actual teaching, the teachers, is this going to increase class sizes in those schools?
No, it will not increase class sizes.
And then just a question on the shift of the IDEA funds that are covering the out-of-state tuition, out-of-district tuition. Is that having an impact on what you expected for class sizes?
No, that will not have an effect on class size either.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Other questions? Thank you, Mr. Winslow. Ms. D'Angelo?
Okay, just want to make note that in the packet that was sent to you last week, I included a memorandum that was submitted to the Budget Committee regarding the proposed cuts at Malden High School in both the vocational and business program. We would entertain any questions that you might have about that memorandum. We outlined in detail the data that we used to make those proposed cuts. So I would yes.
Yeah, I just have a question. It's actually very helpful to have the students and former students come and explain a little bit about what they were doing in the classes and how that's affected their career. So I do really appreciate that contribution. And in looking at this memorandum and hearing the students, one of my questions is that is it really a fair comparison when we have classes where students are using dangerous equipment to expect the class sizes to be the same? Is there a fair number? One of my concerns is that perhaps you want lower per student ratios here, and are there standards out there? Are we really comparing apples to apples here? I mean, we have dangerous equipment that students are around. You may want lower student-to-teacher ratios in that situation. So I don't know if there's some standards that are out there for vocational education that we can compare and make maybe a more fair comparison. I'm just concerned that there's a safety issue here, and obviously one of the great benefits a lot of the students talked about was learning about the importance of being safe around this equipment. And if you reduce the class sizes, the impact on that. I mean, Mark the Bird Vidrich died fixing his car when it fell on top of him. I hope those are the safety things that people can learn in our shop to how to do things safely. So that's just one thing. I just wonder if there's a more fair comparison. I mean, obviously, if you're sitting in a English class, you're not in as much danger as you are in a shop class, and maybe it's not as critical from that aspect. So that's just something I guess I'd like to have a little better understanding of. So,
two things. First of all, I also want to commend all of the folks who came this evening and spoke on behalf of the shops at Malden High School. Certainly their input was quite compelling this evening, and as we prepare the budget that we'll submit next week, all of that will be taken into consideration. I think were we to lower the class size, the data here that is most compelling, that is difficult to reconcile, is that even if we were to lower the class size, say to 20 students, at this point in time, the demand for those courses on behalf of students is lower than it is for the other electives that have been offered in the school. As in the grid that I gave to you in the memorandum, the technology education classes, the students per section were 15.9 on average, which is quite a bit lower than any other classes in the high school. And even if we were to lower the class size to say 20 per class, that would still be a little bit over 4 students below that class size average. So that's the data. And again, you can discuss the data in different ways if you choose to. But that's an important piece of data that we use and we'll need to continue to look at in making this decision.
Mr. Winslow still has the floor.
That was my question. So, yeah.
Mr. Froyer, thank you, Mr. Winslow. Mr. Froyer.
Mr. Winslow, we do have a number of, we're supposed to have no more than 20 students. It isn't a law, but it was an accepted agreement in the high school that we would have no more than 20 students in a class. But I just want to explain one thing. The reason the numbers are low. One reason the numbers are low is because we only have 2 shops. So that means what we used to have, when we had 4 shops, we had 4 classes of at least 20 kids in the freshman year. They would rotate to all the 4 classes. Then they would, for their sophomore year, they would rotate again in the 4 classes, and then they would make a decision to take one of the vocational courses. Now, with just 2 shops, what they have now is they only have 2 semester classes of 20 kids. So that's 40 kids in the wood shop for the year in 9th grade, and 40 kids in the auto shop for the 9th grade, rather than 80 students. So right there, we lost half the students. Now, it's been manipulated. So when the graphics, now we have a graphics class. Instead of having the technology students go through the graphics class, so there would be 3 classes over the year, they made it into an art class. They really did not have any technology ed students per se, like for the 9th grade, so that they could explore 3 shops. They only had 2 shops. So that's one reason why the numbers are low. Also, they cut out, the level 4 class used to be 2 periods. And then they'd have 1 period for the juniors. Well, they combined the 11th and 12th grades so that there were fewer students in the 11th grade to go on to the 12th grade. So those are some of the reasons why the numbers are down. But it really, especially in a wood shop, with so many dangerous pieces of equipment, there should not be more than 20 students in there. Thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Ivino. Thank you, Mr. Froyo.
I guess my question still is, as it was last week, if the numbers are low, is it because the youngsters got wind of the fact that the shops that they wanted were going to be cut? If I'm a youngster and I have this course selection sheet and I'm filling it out and I'm saying, geez, I'd like wood shop, but school committee is not going to, fund a wood shop, or we no longer have, graphic arts. Well, geez, I might as well take a sociology course. My question is, and we don't know that, and I don't know if there's a way to know that, but if youngsters feel as though they're closed out of a shop, why even bother to apply for it? They don't understand the process that we go through in creating the budget, that nothing is finalized until the budget is passed. In the minds, I think, of some of these youngsters, they're saying to themselves, it would be an exercise in futility for me to pick a shop that I'm not going to be able to be part of. So, and I don't know how we find out what those numbers are or were, or if we can find that out. So the fact that the numbers may be low, I think, may be attributed to other factors. Thank you. I want to make sure that the members know that the data represented in the chart is data for this year. So this represents the demand for those classes from last year when cuts were not projected. This is not data that emerged as a result of this year's sign-up process for next year's courses. So it's just important to be clear about that.
Go to Ms. Crow first, and then back to Mr. Froyo. Ms. Crow. Thank you, Mr. Ivino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, since Mrs. Murphy had mentioned something about them in the article, is there any correlation to why is there so many more kids? Where are those kids going if they're not going to the Voc? So if there was an increase from when the superintendent became the superintendent up to 600 from the 200 in the last few years, so are they not coming back to Malden? Do we have any idea if they're just not going to school anymore? Is that give it some validation that if they're not taking the shops, they're not?
I can't speak definitively to the data in that article. We have, as the memorandum states, we have 222 students who are currently at the Voc school. The number of kids who are admitted each year varies slightly from year to year. It may be 52 one year, 49 the next year, and that changes a bit. I think to speak to in response to the demand that has increased, I don't have the data to be able to do that.
And do we know if 222 is our maximum?
So we're over our maximum.
We're over our maximum. And actually, just finally, can you talk a little bit about, we have talked about this before, it's in the memorandum, about the collaborative partnership, about how that would work?
Yes, the collaborative that Ms. Crow refers to is an arrangement through the Shore Collaborative where shop classes in the high schools and the districts that participate in the Shore Collaborative, Cambridge, Chelsea, Everett, Lynn, Medford, Revere, Saugus, Somerville, and Winthrop, if there are vacancies in those shop classes, students from any school, any district within the collaborative may apply for entry into that school and in turn into that class and be admitted. The cost to the district, the sending district, would be the cost of transportation provided to that student. I've really learned a whole lot more about this particular collaborative over the course of the last month as I was researching the entire topic. I don't think that the district has taken full advantage of that, or at least been even maybe as aware as they might be. But we are now, and intend to take advantage of that where we can.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Crow. Ms. Rivera-Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the same subject there on the Shore Collaborative, do you know presently of the enrollment that they have in these different districts somewhat, and if they did have seats available in this past year? Was there any conversation I know in the future could be, but did they have any available that weren't filled this past year?
I know of other districts that have sent schools. I know that Malden has not, but for example, I talked with Roy Belson, superintendent over at Medford, and they have routinely sent a student or a handful of students, usually no more than that, to one of these districts. It's not common necessarily that any of the districts has a lot of seats that are available, but Medford has taken advantage of that. Mr. Belson is the person I learned about the program from. We currently have not.
Before I go to you for the second time, Mr. Froyo, let me take all the first-timers. Mr. Altrino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Smith, the Shore Collaborative is a good idea. Two questions. One, do any children from the Shore Collaborative in these cities come to Malden to take any of our shops?
We've not enrolled any.
We have not. The second question is, let's look at the other end of the spectrum. If I wanted to take an AP class that is in the academic area, and we don't offer it at Malden High because of numbers or because of interest or because of budget, can I take an AP academic course in any of these?
No, you cannot. That option's available only for the vocational courses.
So the only option I would have non-vocationally would be to pay for a school that's a tuition-based school.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Froyo.
First of all those cities...
Mr. Froyo, do me the favor of just tapping that microphone, see if it's amplifying at all.
I think that'll be plugged in.
Try at the base of your mic there. Is it?
The plug is behind.
Plug? No? Is the mic button on? Is there a button on the mic?
Yeah.
That looks like power. That's power.
No? All right, do the best you can.
I'll just speak loudly.
Thank you.
Of these participating cities, I noticed Chelsea doesn't have any shops. Revere has no shops. Saugus has no shops. And Winthrop has no shops. So that eliminates those cities, number one. Number two, do the students have to be special needs to do it through Shore Collaborative?
No, they don't. Shore just sponsors the relationship, but they do not have to be special needs.
All right, and also I'd like to state state that a lot of the students in Malden do not want to leave Malden. They would like to stay at Malden High School and get the courses that they would like. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Froyo. Ms. Vera Rogers again? Go right ahead.
Oh, since it doesn't work.
Try Mr. Winslow's.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You stated that cost per student for the short collaborative would be only transportation. The cost per student in our district is approximately $8,000 per student. What is the cost per district for student attending the vocational voc?
It's probably much higher than that. It's a high school.
But I do not know.
High school cost is somewhere around $16,000 per student for the average vocational cost.
$16,000 per student?
It's not an exact number. I'm just giving you what I believe my rough estimate is. Right, well, about $16,000
per student.
Per student. Mr. Winslow.
Yeah, just following up on the comments from Ms. Crow and Mr. Iovino. Do we get reports from the the Northeast Voc, about how many Malden students are applying, how many are turned away, and what fields they're being turned away in? I mean, do we get a report to that? I mean, that's kind of answers Lenny's question about what the demand is out there. Maybe that's a reflection. Are all our Voc students applying to that? That might be some way.
That report has not been sent to me as a matter of routine. I can request that report and receive it from the Voc school, but it has not come to me as a matter of course.
Thank you.
So I would make a specific request to the superintendent that we request that report from the Northeast Vocational School. Thanks.
Yep. The chair has a few comments here, and Mr. Froy, I'll get back to you again, but you can have the advantage of my comments before you comment again. I don't think we should struggle so much over the data. It seems as though our administrators and the people within our system are trying to give us their relatively fair equation on how some of these things add up, at least at the high school level. The body's opportunity is to put it back into the program. It's been proposed as a cut. We're in a very difficult year. If this survives, the simple equation is something else goes. So instead of struggling with all of this, my suggestion is if the committee sees this as an important and an integral part to the program of studies at Malden High School, you should be prepared to cut something else to make the bottom line meet. So something has to go. Not everything can stay. And if not this, then what? So I think the data speaks for itself. The testimony is very compelling. And we do, I think, all agree that every student can make his or her case for what was the most important piece of their educational experience within the Malden Public Schools and Malden High School especially, since that's what we're talking about. But unfortunately, this is a year where we cannot hold the line on everything that is there. So the important piece to think about is not struggling over this. It's, if we believe this is to be kept, figuring out what else should be cut. And my suggestion would be, if without a direct motion, some member should ask the superintendent to give us an alternative cut at Malden High School, should this not be the one that's selected by the committee, but as the new budget effort comes out, with an even further reduction, I might add. If the sense of any member is that they'd like to see something else other than this not exist at Malden High School, then they should ask the superintendent that directly before we leave tonight, so we can do it for next week. Mr. Froyo.
Is this a forum to make a suggestion?
Well, on that, to make suggestions, absolutely yes, I think it is. If we're going to react to, again, to the testimony that's been heard, or to anybody's notion as to what should be there, what shouldn't be there, the budget document is not a finished exercise, but it's clear that this is being proposed as a way to meet the reduction in revenue for next year. If some member were to say to the superintendent, look, I really do think, based upon what we've heard, that something other than what's been suggested should be looked at as a way of meeting the bottom line, then instead of struggling over, all I'm saying is, instead of struggling over the information that we have, I think the information is relatively accurate myself. But again, if it's the sense that something should stay, then the administration's job at that point is to find out what else should go. That's it. Mr. Winslow. I'm sorry. I'm sticking with Mr. Froy. You had the floors.
All right. I'd like to make a few suggestions at the high school. Mr. Feldman is retiring. Right now, we don't have a person in that position. I'd like to recommend that we not hire somebody for 1 year. Since I worked there when we only had 3 assistant principals. It probably didn't work, especially we're losing Mr. Feldman. And we're not going to replace Mr. Feldman for a while. He does an excellent job. But we had 3 assistant principals, and one of them wasn't Mr. Feldman, and we ran the high school. These are tough times. All right. Two assistant principals, I guess we had back then. Not 3. We had 2 assistant principals, and if Mr. Duffy was here, he could tell you his father was one of them. Also, we have an in-house suspension classroom with a teacher. That could be another recommendation that we could draw to keep the vocational program. So those are my 2 suggestions.
Thank you, Mr. Froyo. I'm going to stay on the left here, then I'll get to the right. Mr. Winslow. But just one, I'm going to ask for a point of information. Is the budget subcommittee done? Are they going to hold another? But I mean, are you going to hold another?
Yes,
meeting? Okay. So again, just to direct Mr. Froyo to the right source, that would be another location where you may want to make your opinions known. As the budget subcommittee deliberates and they come up with their recommendations as part of the whole budget process, it would be good to have it reiterated at that level. Mr. Winslow.
In just thinking about how the shops fit in, and one of the things you hear from so many of the students and the former students is how this was a place for them to be in the high school, and it was a motivating thing for them to stay in the high school. And I think it's analogous to like the math club or something for academics. And one of my suggestions is perhaps to look at a model where we offer a couple sessions of wood shop so that the students learn the safety, and then think of having a strategy of having a woodworking class and woodworking club as a model. I have a club model instead of a teaching model, that we have some teaching just so that the students do learn the basic safety and the use of the equipment, but then the additional skills are put into a club format and that have some stipend for a teacher to do the club work. But it would not, that's one of the alternatives I'd at least like to investigate as another way to look at this. I think it's, if working with your hands is one of the things that's motivating kids, I want that to remain. But if enrollment is down, another way to look at it is to maybe put it into a club format, to have a woodworking club, but also having, the opportunity for kids to learn it. So I guess I'd like to have that looked at as one other alternative to Mr. Froyo's approach as well.
Thank you, Mr. Winslow. Stay on the left, Mr. Rivera. Ashley, this is your. I'm going to go to Mr. Altrino, then I'll come back. Mr. Altrino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we can continue to go on. As the co-chair of the budget, we were asked to cut $4.4 million. And as of today, we're asked to cut another $500,000. So suggestions not only to, I'm not in favor of cutting anything. However, if the committee wants to spend the next 24 hours giving the committee, subcommittee recommendations how to restore $5 million, we can do that as well. So I'd like to suggest to the mayor, as we have done in the past, if you would allow the budget committee to do its process and the other committees members that are not on the committee to submit something in writing. They attend anyways. They've been very good, the other 4 members, and they should. To submit something in writing, give the superintendent and the business manager some time to crunch the numbers. But I'd like suggestion on not only to restore vocational education, but the $5 million of other cuts we have to make. And that's our job as school committee members, not just budget committee. We have to look at the whole picture. We have to tell the second graders that they might have another 10 kids in their class. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out. We have to tell students that, or parents that we will be cutting or merging sports, sub-varsity sports. We have to tell children that they may not have a computer teacher or something like that that's not going to be covered by stimulus. So to answer your question, Mr. Chairman, we will have another meeting because as of today your office sent a letter that we'd have to cut another $500,000. So I'd ask the committee members over the next few days, next week, to draft some recommendations to the 4 of us on the budget committee. And I don't want to speak on behalf of Mr. Ivino, Mr. Duffy, and Ms. Crow, but we need recommendations on $5 million. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Altrino. Ms. Vera Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For myself, I would only like the superintendent to do that work because he knows what our needs are and where they're most essentially needed. I know they're needed across the board, but for me to give a recommendation for this teacher or that teacher or this position to be filled or that position not to be filled, it's not up to me to decide what is needed in our district. So for myself, I would recommend that the superintendent crunch those numbers, and he's been crunching for years now since he's been here. So crunch a little bit more to continue with that program, studies.
Just to answer, if you don't mind.
Don't mind the dialogue.
He has, and I don't want to put words in the superintendent's mouth, but I think he has submitted about 15 drafts of.
I understand,
right.
But
so,
I'm sorry.
He has to submit another recommendation just 2 hours ago when we were just briefly talking to him on another $500,000 worth of cuts. So you're right, Ms. Rivera-Rogers. That's why we hire a superintendent, and that's why the democratic process is to, what we feel we can do to support, or maybe the superintendent can go back and forth. But on Ms. Rivera-Rogers' note, the superintendent is actually going back tonight to revisit $500,000 more cuts. So he would appreciate your feedback, as he has done the last year and a half. But when we, as the mayor said, if we're going to say, please restore X, Y, Z, well, we need an option. And the option is not to get we're not going to get much more money, if any, from the Commonwealth. The Senate hasn't even passed their version. And I think the superintendent and the budget subcommittee has done what they can, but it changes every day. And as of today, $500,000 is not an easy cut to add to $4.4 million. Unless the governor triples our stimulus money, which is not going to happen, I don't know Plan B right now. So I think what we should do to move on to the agenda is to allow the superintendent to give us yet another version after the $500,000, take Mr. Furio, Mr. Winslow's, Ms. Rivera-Rogers, any other points into consideration, and we'll deliberate them in the budget subcommittee. Thank you.
Mr. Ivino, thank you. Mr. Altrino.
Just to follow up on Mr. Froyo's point, when Proposition 2.5 passed, everybody thought it was the end of the world. This is that was a walk in the park compared to what we're faced this time around. And just to reiterate again what Mr. Froyo had said, there is history for doing exactly what he had suggested, because Mr. Duffy and Mr. DiGiamarino were the two assistants at Malden High School when Mr. Wright was principal. It was Mr. Paul Finn who was laid off as an assistant principal at the time. So we had actually 3 administrators at the high school. Is it the best situation? No, of course not. Should we have a full complement of administration for housemasters and a principal? Yes. In good times. In good times, we wouldn't be worried about cutting this, that, or the other thing. But these are not good times. And I think it's an option. It's one of those things that we can look at as a way of trying to close that gap. A small dose of money and an infusion of money, but, we'll do what we have to do. But just as a suggestion. Thank you.
Okay. So we've gotten some things on the table, and we'll move forward.
I think I'll move forward with the rest of my report. First of all, I just want to again make note, I think folks now know that the question was asked at the last meeting what the course of studies was that was being used as students registered for courses for next year at Malden High. We have brought in the high school program of studies. Each member does have that. I just want to make a note that it is the same program of studies that was used by students last year to register for this year, that it continues to include all of the courses that are currently offered at the high school this year, including the woodworking course, and we also submitted for your review a sheet that represents the sheets that the students use to register. And this year, as is the case in the past, an alternative elective sheet is attached. The purpose of that is to allow the students an opportunity to sign up for courses that, as alternatives to the courses that they most want to participate in, because any of those courses may be oversubscribed or undersubscribed. A section may need to be added or taken away, so that any course is susceptible to movement as the final schedule is made. So again, the major point being the same courses that students are currently enrolled in, they may apply to participate in next year. Any questions about that?
Ms. Vera.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, and I asked the superintendent before, and I just was wondering, we are all aware that this is 2008-2009 program of studies. Do we have a date of when Mr. Brown is going to bring forward to us the 2009-2010 program of studies? Because even though there may be changes in the courses that will be offered, that isn't there an exemption clause stating if courses are dropped or other or whatever at the end of the program of studies? So I personally myself, before voting on the budget, moving forward, I'd like to see the 2009-2010 program of studies brought forward to us.
Okay. This program of studies will not be altered until the budget process has been completed, so that we can determine what, in fact, the final staffing will be at the high school, because the program of studies will follow that. We could, in effect, Mr. Brown could have, in effect, put the stamp of 2009-2010 on this one, and tentative in some way. No one chose to do that because it was really the same program of studies that was just carried forward. It's almost as if this represents a revision date, but it will be revised when the budget is passed and we know exactly what the staffing is going to be at the high school. What the high school wanted to prevent was that, regardless of how that is altered at that point in time, we won't have to go through a reassignment or a re-elective process with the students, because they will have given alternative electives at this point in time.
So this sheet, please explain a little further. This sheet here that we have regarding English 12, College Review Math, Sociology, Chemistry, Tech Ed, this is a sheet stating that these classes may not be in the program of studies in 2009, 2010.
Well, this is just one student's, the recommendations, teacher recommendations, and one student's registration sheet. If you look at it, there are, courses, for example, English 12 and Chemistry 1, which will for sure be in the course of studies next year. But I'll give you an example. If no students elected to sign up for sociology next year, then due to attrition, if nothing else, a sociology section may not be offered in the school next year. So the student selection drives the schedule ultimately. Some of these electives or core courses like English 12 will not vary. Those are required of all students. But any of the electives, be it sociology that's here or Tech Ed, which is also on this particular student's list, either of those are subject to demand on the part of students and then ultimately availability according to the budget.
Okay, so then if oversubscription of Tech Ed, your consideration would be made to keep the woodworking class?
That is data that will be gathered and will be taken into consideration.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that topic? Mr. Froyo?
Last week I asked about this program of studies, and I forgot to ask an important question. Up till last year, every year the school committee has okayed the program of studies. January, we never even saw anything. I want to know why.
Well, I can say last year, I can only go back on my past practice. Last year, the program of studies was not presented to the committee and approved, so I'm not aware of that routine. I know that in terms of the document that we looked at last week about the policy in terms of the program of studies, it mentioned that any additions to the program of studies would be voted upon by the committee. At this point, there are no additions to the program of studies. If the committee does want to, in fact, receive the program of studies for review and deliberation, that's quite fine. But I'm not trying to violate any past practice. Last year, we did not exercise that practice, and the request was never made, so I never brought forward the program of studies.
I'm not saying that you violated any.
I appreciate that. I know you're not. This is not personal, John.
I've been through so many years. I've been to school committee meetings, and it always came up around January that it would be presented to the school committee, and they would look at it. I remember one night they had a certain principal in here, and they were murdering the guy. So I think it was on the program of studies, but I was just wondering why we never got to see it.
Okay, and again, it was not a part of my routine to ask for it. If the committee, any member would like to make a request or set forward a process that you would like to see followed, I'd be happy to follow through on that.
Okay.
Okay. Shall I move forward?
I'd like to make that request.
Well, we could always send something to the policy subcommittee.
Very good.
Okay. All right. Try to run through the remainder of the report. Gave you information. We're very, very happy that the Ferryway and BB schools both had a technology upgrade over the course of the last vacation. The data is included in the memoranda about the number of new PCs that have been installed in each of the schools. I also just want to give particular kudos to all of the technology staff who worked many, many hours above and beyond the call of duty during the vacation to make sure that upgrade took place smoothly, and by all reports from the schools as well as the technology staff, it was quite a stunning success. Lastly, in terms of school calendar, I have submitted a 2009-2010 school calendar for approval by the committee. You will note that the the PD days are included in that calendar. If they were to be eliminated, then the end date for the school year would move forward by 3 days. I think it's probably in our best interest to approve the calendar if that is possible, and then make that adjustment at the end of the year if that needs to be made as a result of what occurs through the budget process.
Questions on the calendar? Mr. Altrino.
Superintendent, one reason it was sent back by one member was because of the holiday observance in September for the Jewish holiday. Can you just recap what you've done to change that?
Right. What has happened is that Rosh Hashanah is, we celebrate one of the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, the first day, and that first day falls on a Saturday this coming year.
And so the days we will observe for the Jewish holiday will be?
We will not observe the Jewish holiday.
At all?
At all.
None of them?
Because it falls on a Saturday.
One day does, correct, out of two?
Well, the day that we observe is the first day of Rosh Hashanah, and because that falls on a Saturday, there is no alternative observant day.
Just a point of clarification, the day that the school committee feels should be observed, just to make that clear, not what the real true holiday is. It's what the majority of the school committee, this is just a point of clarification, what the majority of the school committee members felt should be observed. So just to make a point of clarification.
Other questions or comments on the calendar? Mr. Winslow.
I know another thing that we were doing was for Yom Kippur, having that a no test, no reporting day, and have Chinese New Year. And I didn't see those on this calendar, so I think those are modifications the committee would want to include. So, I don't know what those dates are offhand, but I think those are dates, consistent with this past school calendar. We did have Yom Kippur be a no test, no project day. So
right, but
and Chinese New Year as was.
I don't believe that the calendar has ever made a specific designation. That it's been a policy to have no test on those days, but the calendar has never designated the dates as such as being no test.
It was indicated on the calendar last year, so yes. So those were indicated on the calendar. So
okay, well that can be added.
Okay.
Thank you.
So noted. Other questions or comments on the calendar? Let me go to Ms. D'Angelo first, Mr. Froyo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a quick question about the Linden School second half day every month. If we are continuing to do so, have a second half day every month, it should also be on the calendar, I assume. And are we keeping that? That's another question we should.
No, as a matter of fact, we're not. That second half day was part of a grant that has expired, and so we will not be observing that second half day.
Thank you.
Mr. Froyo, thank you, Ms. D'Angelo.
I was going to ask the
same question. Taken care of, Mr. Iadino. Same question. Good job, Ms. D'Angelo.
That's it for the report.
We need a motion on the calendar, but bring back the notations as Mr. Winslow has suggested on the no test, no punishment for absence dates. Otherwise, we need a motion on the calendar with the amendment. Moved by Ms. Rivera-Rogers, seconded by Mr. Froyo. All in favor on the calendar?
Roll call, Mr. Chairman,
please.
Roll
call on the calendar. The clerk would call the roll.
Mrs. Crowe?
Yes.
Mrs. D'Angelo?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy is absent. Mr. Froyo?
Yes.
Mr. Iadino?
Yes, with the notation.
Mrs. Rivera-Rogers?
Yes, with the notations.
Mr. Altrino?
No.
Mr. Winslow?
Yes.
Mayor Howard?
Yes. So voted. Transfers are within the docket. Is all of it, they've been sent out, have they? Right, we have them all?
Yeah, you missed a few.
Have you a separate binder? Oh, I did?
Yeah.
What do we miss?
Shore Collaborative Subcommittee.
Subcommittee updates?
Shore
We had
Collaborative.
that. Do we have any subcommittee updates? All right.
Shore Collaborative first.
Chair, people speak up on behalf of this. Sure, Collaborative. Ms. Crowe, thank you, and there is documentation in the folder here.
Right, and this is
Annual
just
report.
more of an FYI. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As members of the Shore Education Collaborative, we all get the annual end of the year report, and so it's there for you to look at. If you do have any questions, you can give them to me, but I'm going to be passing them on to Ann Booth, the executive director. So it's really just more FYI. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crowe. Other subcommittee updates. Ms. Rivera-Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The policy subcommittee, here I'm thinking budget, money, dollars. The policy subcommittee met prior to the meeting this evening, and at the last meeting, the pregnancy policy was sent back to the policy subcommittee to review and put in some wording to exclude the school department for the health services or the nurses from distributing any of the any services themselves personally. So after the first paragraph states that the mature minor statutes in Massachusetts, youths 12 years and older can access reproductive health services without consent of parent or guardian. These health services covered by the mature minor statute include, and not limited to, and it's from reproductive exams down to emergency care. After the emergency care in that paragraph, the policy subcommittee would like to insert, the intention of this policy is to ensure that the rights and confidentiality of pregnant students are respected by school department staff, while at the same time encouraging pregnant students to seek appropriate health care and inform parents. The school committee does not intend the policy to authorize school department staff to provide reproductive health services or the use of school department facilities for the provision of reproductive health services without further authorization from the committee. This was voted on by the policy subcommittee, and we're bringing it to the committee as a whole for approval. Since you just received this information tonight, I could not request from you to come to a full decision on this paragraph here, but if you do see it fit and you feel that you have reviewed it and understand it, if anybody's willing to make a motion to vote on it this evening, it would be greatly accepted.
On the report, Mr. Iovino.
Well, I would make a motion
Thank you,
that...
Mr. Vera.
Thank you. I would make a motion that we move to vote on this with the insertion of that paragraph that Mrs. Rivera-Rogers has just read. I would have no problem supporting that.
Any discussion on the motion? Ms. D'Arcangelo?
Nope, I'll second it.
No? Seconded by? Any discussion?
So moved.
Moved and seconded, all in favor of the change to policy, the amendment to policy?
Roll call?
Call a roll if we'd like. Sure.
Mrs.
Clerk would call a roll.
Yes. Mrs. D'Arcangelo?
Yes.
Mr. Froyo?
Yes.
Mr. Iovino?
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera-Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Altrino?
Yes.
Mr. Winslow?
Yes.
Mayor Howard?
Yes. Thank you to the policy subcommittee for its work. It's
Thank you,
exactly the
Mr.
language I
Chairman.
think we were looking for.
I'd like to thank all the policy subcommittee members, all the other members, Karen Reynolds, the superintendent, and all administrators for their participation in moving forward and working so hard on these policies that were brought forward. Now, there's another policy that needs to be brought forward at our next meeting, and it's brought to us by Mr. Iovino regarding Malden resident preference first for rentals. So the policy subcommittee will review that and bring recommendation or the recommendation that Mr. Iovino has brought forth to us at the next school committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
And excuse me, also I think the chair did make reference for us to revisit the program of studies policy to, if it needs to be amended, or additional wording for us to receive the program of studies at a specific time of the year. So we will also review that at that given point in time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Any other subcommittee reports? Ms. D'Arcangelo.
I have one quick question. Ms. Vera Rogers, can we be specific on where this is being added to the pregnancy policy?
I thought I was. It's after the first paragraph, after emergency care.
Thank you so much.
As a matter of fact, these policies will be posted on our website, and also reference will be made to our program studies or student handbook at the different schools.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Moving on. Any other subcommittee? Mr. Crowe?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, from the Safety Subcommittee, we have two items. One, thanks to Mrs. Rivera Rogers. There's an issue about a crosswalk at the Salemwood School where there's a bus stop, but there's no crosswalk there, and it's kind of in the middle of the street. So that went to, and kids are just running across the street, not stopping at the crossing guards. So that went to the Traffic Commission, and they will be putting in a crosswalk there for the safety of those students. And secondly, starting today, again, it went to the Traffic Commission. The crossing guards are starting to take notation of license plates of those who are illegally parking in bus stops, the handicap ramps, and it's been an ongoing issue at most of the schools. So that once they take that information, they are forwarding to the police, and then tickets will be issued on what they're sending in. So they've all been doing some training, and they're going to have a form, and there'll be at least one, possibly two, at each school that will be taking that information, and that their responsibility is to forward it to the police. So,
thank you, Ms. Crowe.
Thank you.
Ms. Vera Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Peg. As a matter of fact, I want to give a thank you out to Councilor at Large Paul Anderson for listening to us and our concerns and bringing that to the Traffic Department and having it come true. So that crosswalk will be at the corner of Dell Street and Salem Street, so the children can at least be observed instead of, being at danger every single day. Thank you, Paul Anderson.
Thank you. Any other subcommittee reports? Otherwise, we'll move along, and we have the information on the transfers in a separate packet provided by Ms. Oliver. Any questions on?
Motion to accept.
Second.
Chair moves to move and accept the chair from budget. Ms. Lavino seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Oliver. Superintendent.
I'd like to ask for, I guess this is a point of guidance, if you will. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education was hoping to receive from us a vote on the ELT, on the new ELT calendar or school schedule that has been voted upon and accepted by members of the MEA. That schedule was not available during executive session. It is now available. I would just like some guidance as to how we might move forward on this as quickly as possible to get a vote taken, or to give you an opportunity to review it and to take a vote, so that I can give some direction to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education about what status the schedule is in.
Questions of the superintendent?
We're going to executive session to further discuss this. Is that an executive session?
It is the subject of negotiation, so you have a report on the status of negotiations?
I have a report on the status. I have a copy of the actual schedules that were voted upon by the MEA today.
Okay. Chair will call a recess if we have a motion to resume executive session for the purpose of continuing negotiations. It's moved by Ms. Vera Rogers, seconded by Ms. D'Arcangelo. We'll call the roll on the executive session request.
Mrs. Crowe?
Yes.
Mrs. D'Arcangelo?
Yes.
Mrs. DeFoyle?
Yes.
Mr. Iavino?
Yes.
Mrs. Mrs. Rivera Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Altrino?
No.
Mr. Winslow?
Yes.
Mayor Howard?
Yes. We will convene an executive session. Chair's intention to come back out, finish the regular session when we're finished with that business.
Thank you very much.
Committee's back in session. We'll take up some business that was just voted in the executive session regarding expanded learning time at both the Ferryway School and the Salemwood School. We need a motion to authorize the votes that were taken in executive session. So moved by Mr. Iovino on the Salemwood School side letter, as voted in executive session, second by Mr. Froyo. Please call the roll on the proposed agreement at the Salemwood School.
Mrs. Crowe?
No.
Mrs. D'Angelo?
Yes.
Mr. Broyle?
Yes.
Mr. Iovino?
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera Rogers?
No.
Mr. Altrino?
No.
Mr. Winslow?
Yes.
Mayor Howard?
Yes. Matter passes. We have the same consideration for side letter consideration for the Ferryway School program. So moved by Mr. Iovino, seconded by Ms. D'Angelo. Please call the roll on the proposed side letter agreement for the Ferryway School.
Mrs. Crowe? No. Mrs. D'Angelo?
Yes.
Mr. Broyle?
Yes.
Mr. Iovino?
Yes.
Mrs. Rivera Rogers?
No.
Mr. Altrino?
No.
Mr. Winslow?
Yes.
Mayor Howard?
Yes. That passes. So voted. Contract is
Thank you very much.
Any other items on the docket? Otherwise, points of personal privilege, unless somebody just wants to leave. We can take a motion to adjourn. Ms. Crowe, point of personal, we'd love to hear from you. Another kid.
It's just a reminder that on Sunday, Mother's Day, Happy Mother's Day, Councilor Christensen and I will be hosting our 5th annual Mother's Day brunch at the Eagles Hall, 9 to 11:30. We have lots of raffles. Mothers and children under 3 are free, and everybody else is $3. We make breakfast right there, so we invite everybody to come and join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crowe.
I was going to endorse you for mayor for the next term, but I guess you're shutting us off for personal privilege. Saturday night, St. Rocco Society will have its 80th anniversary banquet at Anthony's in Malden, starting at 6 p.m. Tickets are still available, and there's also a $100 raffle that will be taking place. Don't forget, our feast is August 7th, 8th, and 9th on Pearl Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Altrino. Mr. Iovino. Any points of personal privilege? To the left, Mr. Froyo.
I'd just like to thank Ward 8 Councilor Judy Bucci and the DPW for the job they did putting a new crosswalk in at the Linden School on Hunting Street.
So noted. Thank you, Ms. Vera Rogers. Thank you. Mr. Winslow, pass. Need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.